Ingle here again. Today, we're going to learn the basics of genotypes and phenotypes. When we're talking about genetics, things can get kind of complicated pretty quickly, but there's nothing that is more neat for most people to learn than genetics. So, let's get started. First and foremost, let's learn some vocabulary. First up is genotype. All right, so what is a genotype? How do you even spell that? Over here in the first practice problem, it says for each of the genotypes. What does that mean? I'll tell you. So in the genotypes, it's basically letters that represent your genes. So we assign certain genes certain letters, or sometimes we'll name them something, and that way you can track them later on. So in this case, it shows you genotypes represented by the letter A. They could have picked any letter at all. So you can see that they are in a set of 2. So they have pairs. Why do you think that is? Well, because you inherit half of your genes from your mom and half of your genes from your dad. So on each set, you have one from mom and one from dad, so you're going to have 2 letters. So in this case, one of these capital A's came from one parent and one of the capital A's came from a different parent. That's how that works, okay? Now, genotypes can take a lot of different forms. Sometimes they're both uppercase. Sometimes one is uppercase and one is lowercase. And sometimes they're both lowercase. It just depends what genes your parents have and which ones you've inherited, okay? So far, so good. All right, next up, below, determine what the phenotype would be. Phenotype? What are you even talking about, Ingle? All right, so this one's really easy. Phenotype is basically just the physical or visual appearance of what the genes said to build, right? So if your genes say, let's build brown hair, then your phenotype would be brown hair. So it's just your physical appearance or the physical appearance of whatever we're studying at the time of the trait. All right, so let's jump in because this seems pretty simple. We can do it. Purple flowers are dominant to white flowers. Hold up. All right, so what does that mean? What does it mean to be dominant and what does it mean to be recessive? Because recessive would be the opposite of dominant. Well, it doesn't mean that they're stronger or anything like that. What it means is if something is dominant to something else, it means it's the one that is more likely to physically show up in the appearance. Okay, let's do some examples. In life, earlobes, ding, 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 ding. I'll put some pictures. Earlobes are a really easy one to track. If you have a free-hanging earlobe, then that means you actually have almost like a U-shaped earlobe. That's a dominant trait. Okay, so the phenotype would be that you have a free-hanging earlobe. Now, the opposite of that, or the recessive trait for earlobes, is attached. What on earth? I know because I have attached earlobes. Attached earlobes are recessive. It's where you still have an earlobe, but instead of a U shape, it kind of just goes like this. So instead of having an actual U-shaped earlobe where you can actually see it and earrings look so nice, instead my earlobe is actually pretty small. And instead of dangling, it just goes straight into my neck. There's no U or any sort of shape where it goes down and then back up into the neck. It just straight into the neck. I'll include some pictures so you guys can see. All right, so I have recessive earlobes, and a lot of you out there would have the dominant trait, which is free-hanging earlobes. But the phenotype is the shape of the earlobe. The genotype would be something like what they've given us as the example. So let's say that U stands for unattached, right? So that means that each of you out there watching this, if you have unattached or free-hanging earlobes, has at least one capital gene, one dominant gene, whereas I would be like this one over here. I would have two lowercase u's, recessive, recessive, because that's the only way a recessive trait can physically show up in the phenotype. Okay, I know that was a lot of vocabulary, so why don't we practice and see how you're doing? Okay, number 1, purple flowers are dominant to white flowers. Okay, so it's given us these letters indicated with P's. These are capital P, capital P. So what color would these flowers be? Well, if purple's dominant, then these would be purple. All right, let's go to this next one. This one is tricky. It has one capital letter and one lowercase letter. What color flowers would those be? Let's think back. Oh yeah, they would be purple, because if purple is dominant, all it takes is one capital letter to own the color. All right? All right, these are two lowercase letters, little p, little p. Let's see here. Well, I understand that they use the letter P, so that could be confusing. But if they're both lowercase, that means they're both recessive. So what's the recessive color? White. So these flowers would be white. See? Just like earlobes. If we did this with earlobes, it would be unattached, unattached, attached. So a lot of you watching this would have unattached earlobes. All right, let's do another one. Hairy knuckles. Ew, weird. What does that mean? All right, so hairy knuckles actually means that if you take your hand and you look, it's not talking about this part of your knuckle, which is what we know as our knuckle. It's actually talking about the skin between these two knuckles right there. So between this knuckle and this knuckle, if you look really closely, you can see if you have little peach fuzz or longer hairs or no hair at all. And it turns out hairy knuckles are dominant, which means they're more common than non-hairy knuckles. So let's knock this out. Let's see here. Big H, big H. That would be hairy knuckles. All right, let's go to the next one. One capital, one lower. How does that work? It has the dominant trait, so it has the dominant appearance. So these would also be hairy knuckles. Okay, last one. Little, little. So what's that one? That's the recessive trait. Non-hairy knuckles. Good job, guys. All right. And that's how that works. You guys are welcome to practice the ones below. Next time, we're going to jump into the crazy world of Punnett squares. How do we do Punnett squares? What is a Punnett square? How do you do ratios, genetic inheritance? Where's the cool stuff? So we're going to talk about all of that and more next time.